Microsoft Excel is great at analyzing data, either with pivot tables or with its many other tools. However, the data to analyze are often stored somewhere other than in an Excel worksheet. The most common place to store large amounts of data is in a relational database, such as Access, SQL Server, Oracle, and others. Data can also be stored in text files, XML files, and on the web, and other sources are becoming available. Getting the required data into Excel for analysis has been a primary concern of Microsoft and other software developers for years, and the tools for doing so have evolved through the various versions of Excel. This video provides a broad view of the methods that now exist, and later videos discuss some of these methods in detail. The main tools for importing external data into Excel are found in the Get External Data group on the Data ribbon. The left three buttons indicate that you can import from Access database tables or saved queries. You can import from a web page, or at least if you're lucky, and you can import from a text file. Importing data from a text file is quite straightforward and is not discussed in this course. The From Other Sources drop-down list shows more possibilities. The first item indicates that you can import data from a SQL Server database. Actually, the last item, Microsoft Query, lets you import data from any relational database, but SQL Server is singled out because SQL Server is a Microsoft product. The second item is also specific to Microsoft, where you can import data from a SQL Server Analysis Services Cube. You can learn about the related OLAP Cube technology in the companion video, Introduction to OLAP. The third and fourth items, Windows Azure Marketplace and OData Data Feed, are newer and are discussed in another video in this series. The fifth item lets you import from an XML source. Basically, an XML source is a self-defining data set, where XML tags define the structure of the data. Although storing data in XML format is becoming increasingly common, importing from an XML source is not discussed in this course. The sixth item uses the term connection. In Excel terminology, a connection is essentially a specification of a data source. It indicates the type of source, such as Access or SQL Server, the location of the source, and possibly other information, such as a username and password for gaining access to the source. This information is typically stored in a small text file in an obscure location on your hard drive so that you can get to the data quickly. In fact, the button to the right, Existing Connections, lists known connections on your hard drive. Here is my list. Yours will almost certainly be different, or even empty. Finally, the last item in the From Other Sources list, From Microsoft Query, has been a favorite of many users for years, and it has hardly changed at all over the years. Microsoft Query is a software tool built into Microsoft Office, and it basically provides one-stop shopping for the data you want to import. You first define the data source from a wide variety of possibilities, including Access and SQL Server, and then you can use a query wizard or a graphical user interface to define a query on this source. This graphical user interface is much like in Microsoft Access. Two other videos in this series explain Microsoft Query in more detail. By the way, if Microsoft Query is not on your list, this is because it wasn't installed when Microsoft Office was installed. If you want to use it, you will have to reinstall Office and make sure to check the Microsoft Query item. Some of these methods allow you to return the data to Excel as a table or as a pivot table. If the imported dataset is relatively small, you might want to return the data as a table and then possibly base a pivot table on this table later on. In other situations, however, the imported dataset can be huge, maybe even extending beyond Excel's 1 million row limit. In this case, your only realistic choice is to return the data as a pivot table. As I mentioned earlier, Microsoft's technology for importing data into Excel keeps evolving. In fact, starting with Excel 2010, there is a new technology, Power Pivot, for managing external data. Power Pivot was not part of Excel 2010, but it is integrated into Excel 2013. As its name implies, Power Pivot provides even more powerful tools for importing and then analyzing data with pivot tables than the pivot table tools you learned in the preceding course. And several later videos illustrate these new Power Pivot tools in detail. In summary, Microsoft recognizes the importance of importing external data into Excel, and it provides a variety of tools for doing so. Some of these, particularly Microsoft Query, are classics that have hardly changed for years, and others, particularly Power Pivot, are newer and much more powerful. Once you understand what these tools can do and how they work, you can decide which of them you want to use.